Have you ever felt uneasy around someone, but couldn't explain why? Sometimes that's not anxiety. It's God's Spirit revealing that something isn't right. God sends gentle warnings before He brings new blessings. Some connections were only meant for a season, and holding on too tightly can keep you from what He's trying to lead you into next. These are 7 signs God may be warning you about someone in your life right now. Sign number 1. Repeated spiritual unease. You know that feeling, that heaviness in your chest when you're around them, that quiet discomfort you keep trying to explain away. That's not anxiety, that's discernment, and you need to stop ignoring it. The Holy Spirit speaks in whispers before He has to shout. And that persistent uneasiness you feel, that's God tapping on your shoulder saying, pay attention. You keep making excuses for them. You keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. But deep down, something feels off, and it won't go away. Proverbs 27:12 says, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. God gave you spiritual instincts for a reason. He wired you to sense what your eyes can't always see. When your peace is constantly disrupted in someone's presence, that's not coincidence. That's communication from heaven. Maybe it's the way they talk about others when they're not around. Maybe it's how quickly they switch faces depending on who's watching. Maybe it's just an inner knowing you can't put into words. Whatever it is, stop dismissing it as judgment or overthinking. God doesn't give you discernment to ignore it. He gives it to you to protect you. Your spirit knows before your mind catches up. And that gnawing feeling that won't leave, that's God saying, I see what you can't see yet. Trust me on this one. Don't wait until the danger is obvious. By then, the damage is already done. Spiritual unease is an early warning system. Honor it. Sign number 2. They pull you away from God's presence. Watch who makes prayer feel like a chore. Watch who makes church feel like an interruption. Watch who subtly mocks your faith or makes you feel guilty for spending time with God. That's not a friend. That's an assignment from the enemy. God will never send someone into your life who distances you from Him. Never. If being around them makes you skip prayer, avoid worship, or question your convictions, that's a red flag waving in the wind, and you're ignoring it because you don't want to be alone. 1 Corinthians 15:33 warns, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. That's not a suggestion. It's a spiritual law. The people closest to you will either water your faith or drain it. There's no neutral ground. They either bring you closer to God or pull you further away. And if someone is consistently pulling, God is warning you to let go. Maybe they don't say anything directly. Maybe it's just the atmosphere they create. Conversations always drift toward gossip, complaints, or things that feed your flesh instead of your spirit. Time with them leaves you feeling spiritually cold, distracted, disconnected. You used to be on fire for God, but now that flame is flickering. And the common denominator is them. Jesus spent time with sinners, yes, but He was never influenced by them. He influenced them. If you're being pulled down more than you're lifting up, you're not in ministry, you're in compromise. And God is saying, I need you focused. I need you sharp. I need you close to me. And this person is in the way. Don't sacrifice your relationship with God to maintain a relationship with someone who doesn't value it. Your spiritual life is not negotiable. When God starts feeling distant and that person starts feeling central, you've switched saviors. And God won't compete for a throne that's rightfully His. Sign number 3. They consistently violate your boundaries. Healthy people respect boundaries. Toxic people see them as suggestions. And if someone repeatedly crosses lines you've clearly drawn, God is showing you their character. Believe the pattern, not the apology. You've communicated your limits. You've been clear about what you need, what makes you uncomfortable, what's not acceptable. And yet, they keep pushing. They keep testing. They keep finding new ways to overstep. Then they apologize, make you feel like you're overreacting, and do it all over again. That's not love. That's manipulation wearing a mask. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." People show you who they are through their actions over time, not their words in the moment. And when someone shows you repeatedly that your boundaries don't matter to them, God is warning you that your value doesn't matter to them either. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're fences to keep the right things in. Your peace, your priorities, your mental health, your spiritual focus. And anyone who refuses to respect those boundaries is essentially saying, "My convenience matters more than your well-being." That's not someone God has assigned to your life. That's someone you've allowed to stay too long. Maybe they call at inappropriate hours, even after you've asked them not to. Maybe they bring up topics you've said are off limits. Maybe they guilt you when you say no, making you feel like setting boundaries is somehow unchristian. But here's the truth. Jesus had boundaries. He withdrew from crowds. He didn't answer every question. He said no. He walked away. And if the Son of God modeled boundaries, you're allowed to have them too. When someone refuses to honor your boundaries, they're showing you they want access without accountability. They want the benefits of your presence without the responsibility of respecting your limits. And God is whispering, don't let anyone treat you like you're optional. You're valuable, and valuable things have boundaries. Stop explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you. Stop shrinking to make room for people who refuse to respect your space. God is warning you through their repeated violations. Listen, sign number 4. The relationship bears bad fruit. Jesus said in Matthew 7:16, "By their fruit you will recognize them." So look at the fruit, not the potential, not the promises, the actual fruit. What does this relationship produce in your life? Are you more anxious or more peaceful? More confident or more insecure? More focused on your purpose or more distracted from it? Are you becoming a better version of yourself or a shadow of who you used to be? The relationship might look good on the surface, but God wants you to examine what it's actually producing. Bad fruit doesn't always mean drama or chaos. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the slow erosion of your self-worth, the gradual dimming of your light, the quiet compromise of your standards. You're not in crisis, but you're not thriving either. You're surviving. And God didn't call you to survive. He called you to flourish. Maybe this person brings confusion instead of clarity, jealousy instead of celebration, competition instead of collaboration, exhaustion instead of encouragement. Every time you're around them, you leave feeling less than, less capable, less valuable, less sure of who you are. That's not relationship. That's robbery. Galatians 5:22-23 lists the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If the fruit in your life is the opposite, stress, sadness, chaos, impatience, cruelty, darkness, inconsistency, harshness, and loss of control, God is showing you the source, and it's time to do some pruning. You can't expect good fruit from a bad tree. No matter how much you water it, fertilize it, or talk to it, a bad tree produces bad fruit. It's not your job to change the nature of the tree. It's your job to recognize it and make a decision. Keep watering what's hurting you, or plant yourself somewhere you can actually grow. God blesses relationships that align with His nature. If the relationship consistently produces the opposite of His character, He's warning you it's not from him. And no amount of history, sentiment, or hope can change that. Trust the fruit. It never lies. Sign number 5. They are surrounded by chaos. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me the 5 people closest to you, and I'll show you where you're headed. And if someone is constantly surrounded by drama, disorder, and destruction, God is warning you not to get pulled into the whirlwind. Some people don't just have problems. They are the common denominator in every problem. Every job ends badly. Every friendship explodes. Every relationship is toxic. Everyone has wronged them. Nothing is ever their fault. And somehow you're supposed to believe you'll be the exception. You won't be. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." That word suffers isn't passive. It's inevitable. You don't just risk harm by walking with chaos. You guarantee it. Because chaos doesn't stay contained. It spreads. And when you attach yourself to someone who refuses to bring order to their life, you inherit their disorder. Look around them. Burned bridges everywhere. Failed projects. Broken trust. People who used to be close now keep their distance. And they'll tell you everyone else is the problem. But if everywhere you go smells like smoke, check your own shoes. If every season of their life is a storm, they're not unlucky. They're the storm. God creates order. Genesis 1 shows us that. He brought light out of darkness, structure out of formlessness. And when someone's life is in perpetual chaos, despite having every opportunity to change, that's not just bad luck. That's a refusal to submit to God's order. And God is warning you. Don't try to fix what they won't surrender. You can have compassion without proximity. You can pray for someone without partnering with them. But when you tie your life to someone who thrives in chaos, you don't bring them peace. They bring you chaos. Your stability doesn't fix them. Their instability infects you. And before you know it, you're defending dysfunction, making excuses for destruction, and wondering how you got so far from where God called you to be. God doesn't ask you to rescue people from chaos. He asks you to be a light in the darkness. And sometimes, being a light means keeping enough distance that you don't get swallowed by the shadows. Sign number 6. Your loved ones keep warning you. When multiple trustworthy people in your life all say the same thing about someone, that's not jealousy. That's confirmation. And you need to stop defending the person everyone around you can see clearly. Pride makes us believe we see something others don't. They just don't know them like I do. They don't see their heart. They're misunderstanding them. But what if you're the one who's blind? What if your emotions have clouded your judgment? What if God is speaking through the people who actually love you? Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." God often speaks through community, through parents who have lived longer, through friends who know you well, through spiritual leaders who have discernment. And when they all see the same red flags, and you're the only one making excuses, God is using them as a megaphone. Your mother sees it. Your best friend sees it. Your pastor sees it. People who have no reason to lie to you, no agenda against this person, nothing to gain from your separation. They all see what you refuse to see. And instead of considering their perspective, you pull away from them to protect the very person who's hurting you. That's not loyalty. That's deception. The enemy isolates. God connects. And when you start cutting off wise counsel to maintain a questionable connection, you're already in danger. Because the moment you stop listening to people who genuinely care about your well-being, you've opened the door to someone who only cares about their access to you. This doesn't mean every criticism is valid. It doesn't mean you let anyone control your relationships. But when there's a consistent pattern, when multiple mature voices are saying the same thing, when people who love you are willing to risk your anger to tell you the truth, God is orchestrating that. He's surrounding you with watchmen. And it's foolish to fire the guards because you don't like the warning. You're not special enough to be the exception to every pattern they've shown everyone else. You're not anointed enough to fix what God Himself is trying to remove from their life. And you're not loving enough to change someone who doesn't want to change. Stop trusting your feelings more than you trust the people God has placed around you to protect you. When everyone you trust is saying the same thing, and you're the only one disagreeing, you're not seeing clearly, you're seeing selectively. And God is warning you through the chorus of voices you're trying to drown out. Sign number 7. They hinder your progress. The moment you started getting serious about your calling, they got uncomfortable. The moment you started growing, they started criticizing. The moment you started breaking generational patterns, they reminded you of your past. That's not support, that's sabotage. And God is warning you that they're not for your future. Some people can't celebrate what intimidates them. They can't cheer for what exposes them. And when your growth highlights their stagnation, they'll try to pull you back to where they're comfortable. Not because they hate you, but because your freedom convicts them. Your progress reminds them of their lack of it. 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, "Stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord." But how can you stand firm when someone close to you is constantly shaking your foundation? How can you give yourself fully when someone keeps pulling you backward? You can't. And that's exactly why God is warning you to create distance. Maybe they mock your goals. You think you're going to do that? Who do you think you are? Maybe they bring up every failure. Remember when you tried this before and it didn't work? Maybe they introduced doubt right when you're building momentum. Are you sure God really said that? It's subtle, but it's strategic, and it's working. Or maybe it's not even verbal. Maybe they just create constant distractions when you're trying to focus. Constant emergencies when you're trying to build. Constant drama when you're trying to have peace. And you feel guilty for wanting to move forward because they keep pulling you into situations that require you to pause. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual warfare. And God is saying, I need you free to run. And they're weights I never asked you to carry. In Genesis 13, Abraham and Lot had to separate because the land couldn't support them both. It wasn't about hatred. It was about assignment. Sometimes separation isn't rejection. It's redirection. God is trying to take you somewhere, and certain people simply can't go where you're going. Not because they're bad, but because they're not built for that altitude. Your calling is too important to let anyone dim it. Your assignment is too urgent to let anyone delay it. And your destiny is too valuable to let anyone derail it. When God is elevating you and someone is constantly trying to ground you, that's your sign. They're not your person. They're your test. And it's time to pass it. Let me be clear. This isn't about being cold-hearted. It's about being clear-minded. God gives warnings out of love, not punishment. He's trying to protect what He's preparing you for. And sometimes, the biggest obstacle to your next season is the person you're refusing to release from the last one. You're not responsible for forcing someone to be different. You're responsible for honoring what God is showing you. And if He's been flashing these signs in front of you again and again, and you keep hitting the snooze button, don't be surprised when you wake up further from your purpose than you ever intended to be. Relationships should add to your life, not subtract from it. They should propel you forward, not hold you back. And when God warns you about someone, it's not to isolate you. It's to prepare you for the right people He's about to send. Take this to prayer. Get quiet before God and ask Him, Lord, Is there someone you've been warning me about that I've been ignoring? Don't be afraid of the answer. Be afraid of what staying blind will cost you. If this resonated with your spirit, drop "I'm listening" in the comments as your declaration. Sometimes obedience starts with acknowledgement, and your breakthrough might be on the other side of the warning you've been afraid to heed.